Hi, this is Pam with Jumpstart Code, bringing you another video to help you with your understanding of JavaScript. So, a very important concept in all of programming is a variable. So we're going to spend a few minutes trying to understand variables in JavaScript. What is a variable? Basically, all programs process data in some way, and that data has to be stored somewhere. So that data is stored in something that's called a variable. And a variable means a memory location that has a name so that you can then go back and access what's in it. Think of them as some labeled boxes to organize things that you have. Maybe this is my office supplies, and I have a box where I put pens, and a box where I put paper, and a box where I put staples. And I put labels on the front so that I can easily keep track of what is in each box and easily access whatever I want from a particular box. So when you create variables in any language, you have to give them these names, these labels. And you want to give them unique names. You cannot have two variables with the same name. And you want to give them meaningful names. Now, there are some rules that you have to follow in terms of naming variables. Variables can have letters, A to Z, upper or lowercase, the digits 0 to 9. You can use the underscore character, and in JavaScript, you can also use the $sign character. It's less common to use the $sign character, but it is available to you. The important thing is that you cannot have spaces in a variable name. And JavaScript is a case-sensitive language, and so an uppercase and lowercase are two completely different things. Names have to begin with a letter or the $sign or the underscore. Again, that's not common. The most important thing is you cannot start a variable name with a number. They are case sensitive, and you cannot use something that is a JavaScript keyword. And your names should be meaningful, right? If I've got these variables over here, these boxes, pens, paper, staples, if I were to label these just X, Y, and Z, then I would need some other system to remember that my paper is in box Y. So you want to have a name that helps you to keep track of what is the data that is in that variable. When you create variables in JavaScript, there are two keywords that you can use. There's actually three. Var was used for years and years, but currently with JavaScript, the keywords let and const are the important keywords for creating variables. You use let for a variable where the value might change. And as a matter of fact, that's part of why a variable is called a variable, is because I can put a value in it and I can then change that value. However, sometimes you have a variable that has a value that is not going to change. For example, pi, 3.14159, is not going to change. So you can use constant. The other important operator to understand is the equal sign, which is not an equality operator, but it is the assignment operator. It is how you assign data from whatever is on the right side of the variable of equal to the left side. So if I want to create a variable, for example, called age, I can say let age equals 25. So I have created a variable. The name of it is age, and the data that I've stored in it is 25. So what are the things that I can do with the variable? Again, assigning a value to it. So if we want to play around with JavaScript variables in the console, it's very easy to do that. If you come over here to Chrome, just open up a console window. You don't even have to create any JavaScript at all, and you can play around with JavaScript here in the console. So I can say let age equals 25, right? And if I want to see what is in this variable called age, if I just type it in, I see the value that is in it. I can also print the value using console log. Age is, and this plus sign is like glue. And so you see what I get printed out. I get what's in quotes, and then I glued onto it the value. When you reference a variable like this, it basically says, go look up and tell me the data, give me the data that is in that variable. So I can also use the variable in a calculation. So suppose I say, let birth year equals 2020 minus age, right? Because that's how I would calculate that. So this is an assignment statement. The right side is evaluated. So 2020 minus whatever is in age, which is 25, and that gets assigned to birth year. So if I do this, we can see the value of birth year is 1995. And if I want to, I can also change the value that is in a variable. So if I say age equals age plus 1, then now you see the variable, the value is now 26. So it's very important to understand this is not an equality statement. You always go to the right side of an assignment statement first. So I have a reference to a variable. I look up what is in that variable. What was in it was 25. 25 plus 1 is 26. 26 gets assigned to the variable on the left. And so the value that was in there, 25, is replaced by 26. A variable can only store one value at a time. Now, these are all numbers that we're doing, but we can also store strings in a variable. So I can say let name equals Pam, right? If I look at what is in name, so I had to use quotes because otherwise, if I were to say let name equals Pam like this, I get a problem because it thinks that this is a variable and it's not been set aside as a variable, and so that's not proper. So, and notice, since it was not able to reassign it, it still has the value of Pam. I could say let message equals hello and glue onto it whatever is my name, and then maybe I want to put an exclamation point at the end. So I've built a new variable with this data in it. And if we look and see what is in it, it now says hello Pam. All right, so those are the two most common types of data, which are numbers and strings. And remember, strings also always have to have quotes around them. You can use double quotes or you can use single quotes. Either one works fine in JavaScript. There are actually a few other data types, primitive data types. One is Boolean, which is true and false, but we'll get to that later on when we start talking about selection statements. So for right now, and if you want to create a constant, pi equals 3.14159, again, it's just a variable. The difference is that if I have a variable that is declared as a constant, if I were to try to change the value, if I try to say pi equals pi plus 5, then I get an error because this has been assigned as a constant, meaning its value is not allowed to change. So that is the difference between using let and using const. If you do know that your variable will not change, constant is actually the preferred choice. But when in doubt, use let. All right, so there's your introduction to the fundamentals of JavaScript variables.